podcast for CE News. Today we have with us Anthony, who is from Jamaica but has been living in Poland for more than 10 years. Welcome.
Thank you.
You are not the only Jamaican who has emigrated from the country. There are quite large Jamaican communities in the US and in the UK, naturally. Poland probably is not as large. How big do you think that the Jamaican community is in Poland?
Ooh, good question. Probably under 20 people, I would say, in all of Poland.
And in the US and in the UK, it looks very different.
Yes, probably over 1 million. Yeah.
How did this phenomenon start of migration out of Jamaica?
So initially it started after the Second World War, when labor was needed. There are a lot of Jamaicans, seeking better life, were given the opportunity. Then we had the Immigration Act of '65, which allowed even more non-Europeans to be able to get into the US. So during those years, the 70s, 80s, there was a large influx of people going.
And in the UK, it probably started even a little bit earlier, as we know that this famous Windrush generation, they started leaving Jamaica either in the late 40s or early 50s, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I believe this was the time in the 50s, yeah.
And what kind of trace has this left in Jamaican culture? Do many families, so to say, have that one relative who lives in Birmingham or London or somewhere else? And what kind of stories do they send back to Jamaica from their new country?
Yeah, so it depends. Let's say in my circle of friends, I would have people that have family members in England and in the States, and the story is usually the same, right? That people migrated there for job, better opportunities, then they stayed. There are returning residents, which is also a phenomenon that happens later, that people do come back. But usually people that leave, they seek better life.
Since to both countries they started migrating many decades ago, there must be a lot of Jamaicans who are now born in the UK or born in the US. When they come back to the island, are they somehow viewed by the local Jamaicans that, oh, this guy has been very, molded in British or American culture? Because sometimes we have the same thing here in Poland, that when some Pole who has been born and raised in the US or the UK, he comes back to Poland, he speaks in a slightly different way, dresses in a slightly different way. How do people notice this when young Jamaicans come back, not having been born in the country?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on your upbringing, right? So if in the household, that the family was able to, let's say, maintain the connection to Jamaica, and then they're welcomed. That it's interesting for them to see, and of course that they claim them as their own. So it's not, even if you're born, let's say, in England, the second generation, you will, to Jamaican parents, you will always be Jamaican.
And what influence does it have on the economy? Because many other migrant communities across the world, they play an important role in sending remittances, meaning part of their salary is often sent back to the family in the home country. Is this something that Jamaicans also do?
Yes. This is a big part of the economy. The remittances being sent from the States or from England.
And when it comes to the US more specifically, since it's such a multicultural country, you usually have different population groups living in different geographic parts of the country. Where do the Jamaicans usually move to when they move to the US?
It's mainly to Florida, New York, Boston. These are the regions in the States, and in Canada also a lot of in Toronto. We see, yeah.
When it comes to Florida, especially, the geographical distance is not very far. Simply, the climate, the temperature is quite similar, but Florida is more associated with Latin culture. Is there any kind of interaction between the Cubans in Florida and the Jamaicans? Do they get along, or do they view each other a little bit as rivals?
Yeah, I've never myself been to Florida, unfortunately, but they say that Florida is like a little Caribbean, you know, so because they have a community from almost every island, and yeah, when it comes to the rivalry, you know, I would say that, especially with the Jamaicans, that you know we get along with everyone. But yeah, I would assume that probably there might be some
Competing for similar jobs, or any other similar
just,
problems that
yeah,
sometimes happen between migrant communities.
Yes, if there are some.
And if we look at England, the Jamaicans were probably the first large migrant group to go to the UK. Soon, also Indians from other colonial parts that were naturally during the 50s and 60s. You have this big wave of decolonization, and a lot of Indians from Africa, from Uganda, from South Africa, from other parts started moving to the UK. But the Jamaicans were probably among the first. Are there some stories in Jamaica about this great migration wave after the Second World War? How did this influence Jamaican culture, so to say?
Yeah, because they went there. Of course, to seek a better life, right? They were had some jobs there, and in the sense of their influence. Yeah, I would say that they.
Do you have these movies, for example, that this is quite common in Poland, that somebody left for the new country seeking a better life, and either things go great in the new country, everything is wonderful, or he's living in squalor, things are going poorly, but he's writing these letters back home that oh, I'm having a great time, everything is wonderful.
Like this, yeah. So I guess that sometimes, yeah, it's not all rainbows, right? When you go to a new place, and even though let's say there are more opportunities for you, but you still have to adapt, and it's not always easy, right? Being a foreigner in a new place, having to adapt, having to get to know how everything works. Yeah, and of course, yeah, maybe the income, let's say, it might be a lot for Jamaicans, for the Jamaican compared to Jamaican salary, but then if you, let's say, live in England, that it might not be that much, and then that you do have to struggle.
Yeah, the living costs, unfortunately, in many parts of the UK aren't what they used to be many years ago. If we look at other parts of the world, apart from the US, apart from Canada and the UK, are there any other places that Jamaicans tend to migrate to?
And surprisingly, in Japan, there are a few, but I would say in China there are also a lot of Jamaican students in those parts. But typically Jamaicans tend to go to English-speaking countries, so and the richer ones, let's say, so you know, America, Canada, UK. These are the main ones.
And here during your stay in Poland and other parts of Eastern Europe, are you seeing any trends? Do you hear that some people are starting to take an interest in this part of the world, or the language keeps them away?
Yeah, among my friends back in Jamaica, yeah, I don't know anyone who's planning on moving to Poland. Would be nice, but as I said, there are some here. They're here for different reasons, and I would say that, you know, Poland is growing, especially with the language, because most people just don't really know, for example, that yeah, you can get by with English, so they don't risk it, so to say.
But you would say that most of your friends, when you told them that, oh, I have now moved to Poland, they would be slightly surprised at your choice.
They would, because it's not a typical one. You know, most people would, you know, choose America or Canada. You know, maybe a few a little bit would want to go a little bit further away to England. But usually, yeah, they stick in the region.
What would be the more typical questions from them when you break the news that you are in Poland? What do they associate with Poland? What are their first thoughts? Do they even know where the country is?
Yeah, it's if they could find it on a map, the average Jamaican, yeah, this is.
It's not a country you read a lot about in Jamaica or hear a lot about.
No, I guess it doesn't come up that much. But of course, the weather, the snow, the cold, yeah, these are the main things that come to mind.
Thank you very much for sharing your experiences and knowledge, and we hope to have you back again. Thank you.
Thank you.